I want you to picture a scenario. I mean, I guarantee you've lived through this 1,000 times. It's 7 a.m. The alarm's gone off. You've dragged yourself out of bed, and you're standing in front of the mirror. You're probably, half awake, holding coffee that's way too hot, and you're just staring at your closet. Now, to most of us, this is just getting dressed. It's a chore. It's mundane. But what if I told you that you're actually engaging in a really complex form of non-surgical identity engineering?
That is a very heavy burden to place on a pair of socks. But looking at the research we have for today's deep dive, you're not wrong. It completely changes the framework of that whole morning routine.
It really does. Today we are diving into a fascinating source called Fashion as a Tool of Non-Surgical Identity Engineering, a psychological perspective.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear right off the bat, this is not some fluff piece about what colors are trending this season.
No, not at all. This brings together some serious intellectual heavy hitters. We're talking historian Yuval Noah Harari, cognitive psychologists, and even experts in neuroaesthetics.
It's a collision of history, brain science, and design, really.
It is. And the mission of this deep dive is, well, it's pretty specific. We want to prove that clothing is not superficial. The argument here is that it's a tool for regulating your brain chemistry, a simulation device for future use, and in a way, it's a rehearsal for a post-human future.
Which is a massive claim. I think most people see fashion as vanity or, self-expression at best. But this idea that we are all engineers of our own bodies, that's where I want to start, because the source kicks off with a name a lot of listeners will know, Yuval Noah Harari. He's usually writing about the broad sweep of history. So what's his take on, the person standing in front of the mirror?
Well, Harari's perspective really sets the philosophical stage for everything else. He argues that the human of the 21st century has fundamentally changed. We're no longer just biological organisms governed strictly by nature. We have become projects.
Projects? That sounds like a home renovation.
It's exactly like a renovation, but for the self. Harari's point is that life used to be about survival, not starving, finding shelter. But now, life is defined by transcendence. We're trying to overcome pain, death, the randomness of our bodies. We're striving for qualities that used to be, well, divine. Longevity, happiness, control over our form.
Okay, I get the Homo Deus angle. We want to be gods. But most of us aren't exactly biohacking our DNA in the garage just yet. We're just trying to find a clean shirt. Yeah. So how does fashion fit into this huge sci-fi vision?
That's the disconnect the source tries to bridge. Harari says the body itself has become an engineering space. We treat identity as something modifiable, optimizable, something we can upgrade. But our psychology moves faster than our technology, so before we get to genetic engineering or cybernetics on a mass scale, we have to rehearse that level of control.
So the mirror is the rehearsal space.
Precisely. Before we use a scalpel, we use fabric. Every morning when you decide how to present yourself, you are psychologically rehearsing the ability to modify your identity. You're treating yourself as something fluid that can be optimized.
That is such a cool reframing. We're doing the psychological work of the future, but with cotton and polyester right now. It suggests the impulse to change your hair or your style isn't just boredom. It's this deep drive to overcome your biological default settings.
I mean, that's what makes it non-surgical. It's a low-stakes way to practice being something else. You can iterate, you can fail. If you wear a terrible outfit, you survive. If you edit your genes wrong, that's a bigger problem. Fashion is the beta test for the upgraded human.
I like that. Beta testing the self. All right, so let's move from the philosophy to the hard science. The source pivots here to something called enclothed cognition. Now, that sounds very academic. What does it mean to have enclothed thinking?
This is where we get into the work of Adam Galinsky and Hajo Adam. It's a fascinating field. Enclothed cognition is basically the scientific term for the idea that clothing doesn't just change how other people see you.
Which is what we usually think, right?
Yeah.
Impression management.
Exactly. This is about how it changes how you think, feel, and perceive yourself. It's an internal shift, an inside job.
And they proved this.
They did. With a very famous experiment that I love. It's often called the lab coat study.
I've heard of this, but I've never really gotten into the mechanics of it. How did it work?
So the researchers took a group of participants and gave them all identical white coats. Physically, the garments were exactly the same fabric, same cut.
Okay. Standard control.
Right. But they split them into two groups. Group A was told this is a doctor's coat. Group B was told this is a painter's smock. Then they gave them tests that measured attention to detail, focus, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm guessing the doctors did better.
Significantly better. The group wearing the so-called doctor's coat showed enhanced attention and precision.
But just to be totally clear for you listening, they were wearing the exact same coat.
Identical. The physical garment didn't change at all. What changed was the symbolic meaning attached to it.
That is wild. It implies the effect isn't in the cloth itself, like some magic fiber. It's in the story we tell ourselves about the cloth.
Precisely. The researchers call clothing a symbolic operator. When you put something on, you're not just covering your skin, you're activating specific cognitive schemas in your brain. A schema is like a mental blueprint. If you associate a suit with power, wearing one actually makes you access those neural pathways more easily. You think more decisively.
So if I associate gym clothes with energy and I put them on, I'm basically priming my brain to be restless.
Yes. And conversely, if you wear those gym clothes to sit at a desk and do a spreadsheet, you might find yourself feeling fidgety because you've activated a schema for movement in a context that requires stasis.
It's basically the placebo effect,
Yeah.
but for competence.
In a way, yeah. But it's consistent. The source text puts it really well. It says clothing alters how the body is cognitively inhabited. You literally live inside your body differently depending on what is wrapped around it.
That explains so much about the whole work-from-home dilemma. I remember during the lockdowns, that big debate. Do I need to get dressed? And I noticed when I stayed in sweatpants, my brain felt softer, less sharp. It wasn't just that I looked lazy, I actually felt less capable.
That's enclosed cognition in action. You were signaling to your own brain, we're in relax mode, and your brain obeyed. When you put on a blazer, you signal time to focus, and your brain upregulates those systems.
So in a way, we're hacking our own brains.
Yeah.
Using external props to trigger internal software updates.
We are. It's a psychological intervention. And if we connect this back to Harari's identity engineering, this is the practical side of it. You're using an external tool to regulate an internal state.
This leads perfectly into the next big idea. We've talked about how clothes affect us right now, our attention, our focus. But what about our future? The source brings in the work of psychologists Hazel Marcus and Paula Nurias and their concept of possible selves.
This is one of my favorite concepts in psychology because it's so relatable. Marcus and Nurias argue that we don't just have one self. We have our current self, sure, but we also have a whole cast of possible selves floating around in our heads.
Who are these people? Like imaginary friends?
More like ghosts of your potential. Some are hoped-for selves, the successful entrepreneur, the marathon runner. Others are feared selves, the failure, the lonely person.
That sounds pretty stressful, just having this gallery of who I could be, judging me.
It creates a lot of tension. But that tension is motivational. We organize our lives around trying to reach the good ones and avoid the bad ones. But here's the catch, and this is where fashion comes in. These possible selves aren't just abstract ideas. They are visual. They are embodied. When you imagine your successful future self, you usually have a picture of what that version of you looks like.
I see where this is going. Fashion lets us cosplay as these ghosts.
That's a great way to put it. The source describes clothing as a simulation device. It lets you materialize a possible self temporarily. You can test drive a future identity.
So if I want to be a more adventurous person, buying a leather jacket isn't just consumerism, it's a simulation.
It's a simulation and a rehearsal. Think about it. If you want to become something you aren't yet, it's a big leap. You feel like an imposter. Fashion lets you inhabit that identity before it's fully integrated. You can put on the outfit of the confident speaker and see how that body feels, how it moves, without a permanent commitment.
It's like beta testing a software update for your personality. You install the creative director update, wear the black turtleneck, and see if it crashes the system.
Exactly. And if it feels wrong, you take it off. No harm done. But if it feels right, that's the bridge. And the source makes a crucial point here. Fashion doesn't just express who you are. That's the common idea. I wear this because I'm a rocker. No. Instead, fashion actively helps construct who you're becoming. It lets you experiment.
That distinction is huge. It's not, I wear this because I am this. It's, I wear this so I can become this.
Right. And that bridges the gap between the philosophical idea of the human project and the daily reality of getting dressed. It also helps explain why we hoard clothes we don't wear.
Oh, I am so guilty of this. I have things in my closet I haven't touched in years.
Those aren't just old clothes. They're failed possible selves. Or abandoned ones. You keep them because getting rid of them feels like admitting you're never going to be that person.
That hit a little too close to home. I'm holding on to a fitness guy self that I haven't visited in a while.
We all have that shelf.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me because we're going even deeper into the biology. We've talked psychology and identity, but the source brings in neuroaesthetics. And this part surprised me. The idea that our clothes are basically drugs.
In a manner of speaking, yes. We're looking at the work of Anjan Chatterjee here. Neuroaesthetics is the study of how our brains process beauty and art, but it applies to everything visual.
So how does a shirt trigger a reward system? I mean, I like a nice shirt, but I don't feel like I'm taking dopamine.
You might be, just in microdoses. Your brain is constantly processing sensory input, visual forms, colors, textures. These aren't just seen passively. They act as direct stimuli. When you wear something with a specific texture, say soft cashmere versus stiff denim, that input is modulating your mood and arousal levels.
The source calls this low-intensity neurostimulation.
Yes, and that phrase is key. It's low intensity because it's not a shock to the system, but it is continuous. You wear these clothes all day. So for what, 12, 16 hours? Your clothing is providing a constant stream of sensory data that regulates your emotional baseline.
So we aren't just wearing clothes, we're being neurologically regulated by them. It's like background radiation for your mood.
That's the aha moment. Think about it. If you're wearing something that feels constricted or the fabric is itchy, that's a constant low-level pain signal. It's draining your cognitive resources. You have less patience, less focus, because part of your brain is busy dealing with, this feels bad.
It's like having too many tabs open in your browser. It just slows the whole computer down.
Exactly. And conversely, if the fit is perfect and the texture is soothing, you're getting a continuous microdose of positive reinforcement. You feel more grounded, more capable.
It makes me think about comfort clothes in a whole new way. It's not just about being lazy, it's about seeking a specific neurological state. Self-soothing.
Absolutely. It's self-soothing through tactile engineering. We use clothes to manage anxiety, our energy levels, our sense of agency. It defines the emotional water we swim in all day.
So if we recap this,
Yeah.
we have Harari's Project of the Future, Galinsky's Cognitive Hacking, Marcus's Future Simulations, and Chatterjee's Neurostimulation.
Yeah.
The source text brings us all together under one umbrella term, symbolic bioengineering.
It's a heavy term, isn't it? But it fits.
It sounds like something from a cyberpunk novel, but the argument is that we are doing this now.
That's the critical takeaway. We often look at technology like gene editing or neural implants as the only way to modify ourselves. We're waiting for the cyborg future. But those things have high barriers to entry. They're expensive, they're risky, often irreversible.
Right. If I edit my genes, there's no going back, but if I wear a bad outfit,
You change it. Fashion is the most immediate, accessible, and reversible tool for self-modification we have. It allows us to negotiate boundaries that biology usually fixes.
what kind of boundaries? I mean, I can't change my height just by putting on a jacket.
No, but you can change how those things are perceived. Think about the boundary between masculine and feminine, or private and public. Clothing lets us blur those lines safely. The source mentions contemporary fashion trends here, things like fluid silhouettes, oversized garments that hide the body's form.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Shapes that don't really look like a natural human body anymore. Big, boxy shoulders, layers that hide the anatomy.
The source argues these are speculative prototypes. We are wearing shapes that exceed the limits of the current biological body. We are preparing ourselves, visually and psychologically, for a post-human era where our anatomy might not be our destiny.
That is mind-bending. So that oversized, deconstructed jacket isn't just a trend. It's a prototype for a body that doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. It's helping us get used to the idea that the human form isn't fixed. It's malleable. We're creating a visual language for a synthetic body before we build one.
It's shifting the Overton window of the human form.
Correct. And that's why symbolic bioengineering is such a perfect term. We're engineering the concept of the human, using symbols, before we engineer the flesh of the human.
So what does this all mean for you when you're standing in front of the mirror tomorrow morning? Because we've gone from what should I wear to how do I bioengineer my identity? Which is a bit intimidating for 7 a.m.
I think the biggest takeaway is just intentionality. We tend to see fashion as frivolous. But if you accept the science that it changes your cognition, simulates your future, regulates your neurology, then getting dressed becomes a powerful act of agency.
It stops being a chore and starts being a strategy session.
It is a non-surgical operation. You are operating on yourself. You're deciding, who do I need to be today? What cognitive skills do I need to sharpen? What future self am I rehearsing?
Yeah.
And then you choose the costume that activates those systems.
It really empowers the mundane. It's not just vanity, it's preparation.
And it suggests the future of humanity isn't just going to arrive in a lab. It's arriving gradually, quietly, through these everyday practices. We're changing what it means to be human by changing how we present being human.
We're already wearing the future.
We are, and we're testing it out one outfit at a time.
That is a lot to think about. I used to just look for stains. Now I'm going to be looking for cognitive schemas.
Just ask yourself, is this shirt helping me simulate the person I want to be? Or is it reinforcing the person I was yesterday?
I love that. So, to you listening, tomorrow morning when you look in the mirror, don't just check your hair. Ask yourself a question. If your outfit is a simulation of your future self, who exactly are you rehearsing to be?
Are you rehearsing your past or your potential?
That's the question. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go engineer some identity.